What if I told you that some muscle cars were so dangerous, the NHRA had to ban them from competition? Sounds impossible, right? Well, there's a 1964 Ford that was so fast and violent, racing officials literally rewrote the rulebook just to keep it off the track. These weren't just fast cars, they were four-wheeled weapons that terrified even professional racers. Today, we're revealing the 5 muscle cars so dangerous that America's Drag Racing Authority had to ban them. And number 1 will blow your mind. Number 5. 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt. Back in 1964, when drag racing was America's heartbeat and every manufacturer was chasing quarter-mile glory, Ford built something that went way beyond the competition. They created a machine so wild, so brutally fast, that even the National Hot Rod Association had to step in and reclassify it out of stock competition. That machine was the 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt, and it didn't just break records, it broke the entire concept of what a production car could be. From the outside, the Thunderbolt looked like an ordinary Fairlane sedan. Clean lines, conservative styling, the kind of car your neighbor might drive to work. But under that deceptively mild hood sat a monster that had no business being in a street car. Ford's engineers had taken their 427 cubic inch high-riser 5.8 and somehow convinced the bean counters to let them stuff it into a production vehicle. This wasn't your typical engine setup. The 427 high-riser featured a single 4-barrel carburetor, solid lifter camshaft, and heads designed for maximum airflow. When properly tuned, these engines were producing around 425 horsepower, numbers that were absolutely staggering in 1964. But Ford didn't stop there. They stripped every ounce of unnecessary weight from the Thunderbolt, replacing the hood and front fenders with fiberglass, installing lightweight bucket seats, and even deleting creature comforts like the heater and radio to save precious pounds. The rear axle was moved forward 2 inches to improve weight transfer, and the car received a heavy-duty suspension designed specifically for drag racing. The result was a car that weighed around 3,200 pounds, but packed enough power to dominate any drag strip in America. When the first Thunderbolts hit the strips in 1964, they didn't just win. They obliterated the competition. Quarter-mile times dropped into the 11-second range, with trap speeds approaching 124 miles per hour. Chevrolet's big block Impalas and Chrysler's early 426 Wedge cars couldn't even keep the Thunderbolt's taillights in sight. The NHRA quickly realized they had a problem on their hands. The Thunderbolt was so dominant, so far ahead of everything else, that it was making a mockery of stock-class racing. Ford had only built about 100 Thunderbolts, all hand-assembled and sold primarily to professional drag racers. The NHRA was forced to reclassify the Thunderbolt into factory experimental class, effectively removing it from stock competition where it had been embarrassing everything else on the track. Before we continue with these banned beasts, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got more incredible muscle car stories coming your way that you won't want to miss. Number 4. 1968 Dodge Dart Superstock Hemi Dart. By 1968, Chrysler had watched Ford dominate drag racing for years with their Thunderbolt, and they decided it was time to fight fire with an even bigger fire. What they created was the Dodge Dart Superstock, better known as the Hemi Dart, a car so extreme and purpose-built that it made the Thunderbolt look conservative. This wasn't just another muscle car, it was a factory-built missile designed to destroy everything in its path, including any pretense of being a street car. The Hemi Dart started life as Chrysler's compact A-body platform, but that's where any resemblance to a normal car ended. Chrysler's engineers took their legendary 426 Hemi 5.8 and somehow managed to wedge it into the Dart's engine bay. The installation required extensive modifications to the shock towers, firewall, and suspension mounting points. The massive Hemi barely fit, requiring custom motor mounts and a specially designed oil pan just to clear the steering linkage. This wasn't a street Hemi either. These were race-prepped engines with aluminum heads, solid lifter camshafts, and dual 4-barrel carburetors that could produce well over 500 horsepower in race trim. The transformation didn't stop with the engine. Chrysler stripped the Dart down to its bare essentials, replacing the steel hood and front fenders with lightweight fiberglass pieces. The interior was gutted, leaving just basic bucket seats and the minimum required equipment. The rear axle was moved forward to improve weight transfer, and the car received a heavy-duty Dana 60 rear end to handle the Hemi's massive torque output. The result was a car that weighed around 3,000 pounds, but could produce enough power to run quarter-mile times in the low 10-second range. When the Hemi Dart started showing up at drag strips across America in 1968, they didn't just win, they embarrassed everything else on the track. These cars were so fast and so dominant that other manufacturers started crying foul, claiming that Chrysler had essentially built race cars and called them production vehicles. The NHRA was forced to create the super stock class specifically to accommodate these monsters, effectively banning them from competing against anything resembling a normal street car. Only about 80 Hemi Darts were ever built, and each one was a hand-assembled weapon designed for one purpose: to prove that Chrysler could build the fastest quarter-mile car on the planet. Number 3. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. General Motors had watched Ford and Chrysler dominate drag racing with their factory hot rods, and by 1969 they decided it was time to show the world what real engineering could accomplish. What they created was the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, a car so advanced and so devastatingly fast that it didn't just break records, it redefined what was possible from a production vehicle. The ZL1 wasn't just reclassified by the NHRA, it was so exotic that it essentially created its own category. The heart of the ZL1 was its engine, and what an engine it was. Chevrolet took their proven 427 cubic inch big block and completely reimagined it using aerospace technology. The entire engine block was cast from aluminum instead of iron, saving nearly 100 pounds of weight while maintaining the strength needed to handle massive power. The heads were aluminum, the intake manifold was aluminum, even the water pump housing was aluminum. This wasn't just weight savings, it was a complete rethinking of how to build a high-performance engine. The ZL1's all-aluminum 427 was officially rated at 430 horsepower, but everyone knew that was conservative. Dyno tests revealed these engines were actually producing closer to 500 horsepower, and the aluminum construction allowed them to rev higher and run harder than any iron block could dream of. But the real genius of the ZL1 was how Chevrolet managed to get it classified as a production option. Through the Central Office Production Order (COPO) system, they made the ZL1 engine available as a regular option, albeit one that cost $4,160, nearly twice the price of a base Camaro. The astronomical cost meant that only serious racers would order one, and Chevrolet built just 69 ZL1 Camaros, each one essentially a hand-assembled race car disguised as a street machine. When the ZL1 started appearing at drag strips, the results were immediate and devastating. These cars could run quarter-mile times in the low 11-second range right off the showroom floor, and with minimal modifications, they could easily drop into the tens. The combination of massive power and lightweight aluminum construction created a power-to-weight ratio that was simply unmatched by anything else on the track. The NHRA quickly realized they had been outmaneuvered by Chevrolet's engineering department. The ZL1 was technically a production car, but it performed like a purpose-built race car. The sanctioning body was forced to reclassify the ZL1 into special categories, effectively removing it from stock competition, where it would have dominated every class it entered. If you're loving these stories about America's most extreme muscle cars, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're just getting to the most incredible banned machines. Number 2. 1962 to Plymouth Savoy 411.3 Max Wedge. Long before the Hemi became Chrysler's weapon of choice, they had another engine that was so dominant, so purpose-built for drag racing, that the NHRA had to create entirely new categories just to contain it. The 1962 Plymouth Savoy, equipped with the 413 Max Wedge engine, was Chrysler's first serious attempt at building a factory drag racer, and it was so successful that it forced racing officials to completely rethink their classification system. The Max Wedge wasn't just another big block engine, it was a purpose-built racing motor that happened to be available in a production car. The 413 cubic inch V8 featured a radical wedge-shaped combustion chamber design that allowed for higher compression ratios and better breathing than conventional engines. With dual 4-barrel carburetors, a solid lifter camshaft, and heads designed for maximum airflow, the Max Wedge produced 420 horsepower in its most potent form, numbers that were absolutely staggering for 1962. But Chrysler didn't just stuff this monster engine into any old car. They chose the lightweight Savoy two-door sedan and then proceeded to strip it down even further. The hood, front fenders, and bumpers were replaced with aluminum pieces to save weight. The interior was gutted, leaving just the bare essentials. Even the sound deadening was removed to shed every possible pound. The result was a car that weighed around 3,200 pounds, but could produce enough power to run quarter-mile times in the low 12-second range, performance that was unheard of for a production car in 1962. When the Max Wedge Savoys started showing up at drag strips across America, they didn't just compete, they dominated. These cars were so fast and so obviously built for racing that other manufacturers complained they weren't really production vehicles at all. The NHRA was forced to create the factory experimental class specifically to accommodate the Max Wedge cars, effectively banning them from stock competition. Chrysler had built what was essentially a race car with license plates, and racing officials had no choice but to acknowledge that the old classification system couldn't handle such extreme machines. The Max Wedge Savoy proved that American manufacturers were willing to build anything, no matter how extreme, in the pursuit of quarter-mile dominance. It was the car that started the factory hot rod wars and forced the NHRA to completely rethink how they classified production vehicles. Number 1. 1965 AFX Ford Mustang 427 SOHC. At the top of our list sits the most feared, most controversial, and most legendary muscle car in NHRA history, the 1965 AFX Ford Mustang, equipped with the 427 SOHC Camaro engine. This wasn't just a car that was reclassified by the NHRA, it was a car that was banned from NASCAR before it ever raced, then stuffed into a Mustang body to create the most extreme factory experimental car ever built. The Camaro Mustang represents the absolute pinnacle of 1960s American automotive insanity. The story of the Camaro begins with Ford's frustration at watching Chrysler dominate NASCAR with their Hemi engines. Ford's engineers knew they needed something revolutionary to fight back, so they took their proven 427 cubic inch big block and completely reimagined it. Instead of traditional pushrod valve actuation, they designed a single overhead cam system with long timing chains that allowed the engine to rev to 8,000 RPM and beyond. The 427 SOHC featured hemispherical combustion chambers, massive ports, and the ability to breathe like no engine before it. In race trim, these engines were producing over 600 horsepower, numbers that were absolutely unthinkable in 1965. But NASCAR banned the Camaro before it ever turned a wheel in competition, claiming it was too exotic and too far removed from production engines to be legal Ford was furious, but they weren't about to let their engineering masterpiece go to waste. Instead, they decided to stuff the Camry into lightweight Mustang bodies and create the ultimate drag racing weapon, the AFX, Altered Factory Experimental. Mustangs were built specifically for drag racing, with fiberglass bodies, tube chassis, and every possible weight-saving modification. The Camry engine was mounted as far back as possible to improve weight distribution, and the cars featured massive rear tires and minimal front rubber to maximize traction off the line. When the Camry Mustangs hit the drag strips in 1965, they didn't just win, they redefined what was possible. These cars could run quarter-mile times in the low 10-second range with trap speeds approaching 140 miles per hour, performance that wouldn't be matched by production cars for another decade. The sound of a Camry at full song was unlike anything else on Earth, a mechanical symphony that could be heard for miles and struck fear into the hearts of competitors. The NHRA created the AFX class specifically for these extreme machines, acknowledging that they were too far removed from production cars to compete in any stock category. The Camry Mustangs dominated AFX competition, but their real legacy was proving that American manufacturers could build engines that were simply too advanced for their time. The 427 SOHC represents the absolute peak of American automotive engineering in the 1960s. An engine so sophisticated and so powerful that it had to be banned from its intended purpose and relegated to drag racing, where rules were more flexible and performance was the only thing that mattered. And there you have it, the 5 muscle cars so dangerous that the NHRA had to ban them from stock competition. These American legends didn't just break records, they broke the rulebook itself. Which one of these banned beasts impressed you the most? Don't forget to subscribe for more muscle car history that racing officials don't want you to know. And check out our next video about the most dangerous drag racing accidents ever caught on film. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes being too good is the most dangerous thing of all.